Shalom Akim. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, with teacher real well, and Shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading this truth and sincerity. Shalom. So in this video, I want to go into Proverbs chapter 1, verse 10 on down, all the way to verse 19. This is going to be in transit, so I'm not really able to really focus on reading the up and coming verses, but they're being displayed on the screen. So what I basically propose is that I roughly paraphrase them, as y'all are able to read it on the screen yourself. But these verses, they go into if someone is basically trying to win you over to basically, commit a crime, steal from someone else, make a whole plan to, either steal money or steal jewelry, steal a car, all them things that we can think about that people are stealing nowadays, right? And what these scriptures actually say is, like, if that happens, you should basically not walk in that way. You should not pursue that type of activity. And what the same scriptures also say is, like, the moment that you're gonna do so, you're gonna acquaint yourself with a life that basically has brought you into a situation where you constantly have to be looking behind your shoulder, man. Where you constantly have to look behind your shoulder, man. Like, am I being watched? Am I being followed? And back in those days, back in the ancient days, we don't have the technology. They didn't have the technology that they have right now, right? With police, having access to information, with even rich people, being well connected, to the point that they know people that know people, or that they know people that have certain skills, to acquire a lot of information, or to, you know what I mean? Find out where people are located at, man. So these scriptures actually explain you, like, if you have people that want to persuade you to basically come together to rob a person of whatever it is that you want to rob him of, don't do it. Such people that do such things, they're quick, man. They're quick. And I sigh deeply, because I'm like, man, I cannot imagine people being in that way, man. Like, being like that. I cannot imagine people being like that, right? So people that are like that, they are in an environment that basically has them on edge all the time, man. Recently I came across a couple of colleagues that I used to work with last year, or 2025, man. I worked with them for a couple of months, like 1 or 2 months. And I asked them certain questions about former colleagues, because I knew, like, one of them was gone. they didn't know about the other one where he was at. What happened? They told a story about this dude, this Jake, that all of a sudden, after a couple of news articles or certain news things came out, that there was a shooting, and that shooting basically took place close to where I live as well, because this man lives, or basically, let me say, used to live in the same place that I live at, man. The same, like, I don't want to say village, but like the same neighborhood. And what did they tell me? They said, yeah, after the shooting that took place and that news article came out, we didn't hear nothing from him for a couple of weeks, so we started to worry about it. We started to worry about him. But what did they do? They sent people basically to fetch his work van, his work vehicle, right? Then them coming to find out that the locks that he used to have were cut off, man. His locks were cut off. They basically was laying underneath the chair of that van, and then he disappeared, man. Nobody home. Not his wife, not his child, gone. So they basically, in some shape or form, they filed a people's missing report, right? And then they was being informed that everything was all right, but that they couldn't say nothing about it. So cool cat, but the situation that I just described was after a shooting took place, this man disappeared. That actually backs up the point that I'm saying, because if you are in a scene environment where people are stealing, robbing, murdering, you're in an environment where you constantly have to watch your back. You're never safe, man. You never feel at ease, pertaining to, where you can go, man. You basically have to be a vagabond, man. A vagabond in the street. A person that has no home, no place of refuge, man. Because there's a possibility that you might be found out, man. You doing a shady business. At the moment it might go wrong, man. The people that you're trying to rob or steal, they're being informed about it. Now they're prepared. They're waiting. They're waiting for your ass, basically. They're waiting for your ass. The moment that you show up, that's your head, man. That's your head is laying on the floor then. So why would you want to basically be in a situation like that, man? In a life like that? Being a scammer, being a thief, It even says in verse 18, and I can quickly, glance at it as I'm about to approach the traffic light. It says, Proverbs 1:18, it says, and they lay wait for their own blood, they lurk privily for their own life. So they live a life where it's only a matter of time where they're going to be caught up in the crossfire, man. Because if people find out that it was you that did those things, and now I'm talking about the people that come from that same environment, right? They're gonna hunt your ass, man. There's gonna be a bounty on your ass, basically in the quote-unquote, underworld, right? That's what they call it in Holland, the underworld, the place where people do them shady things, quote-unquote, under the radar, But then also in these modern times, you have the cops, man. Being able to have access, especially nowadays, man, with all that AI, they're able to catch your ass, man. You know, back in the days, and I think this theory still exists on the TV, but I don't know, you know, whether they continue to seize this. But you had a series called Person of Interest. You had this one dude. You know, he was a cop or FBI agent. You know, and he was working in conjunction, you know, together with. He was working together in conjunction with the dude that actually, with AI, created an algorithm that would be able to, you know, like pre-crime, man. You know, being able to search for pre-crime before it happens. You know, but the same type of technology they are able to use, you know, to basically hunt your ass, man. You know, especially because Esau is creating a system where he wants to basically do away with the borders, right? So all these agencies, they have access to one another's information, you know, whether that is directly or whether that is going to be through, you know, asking approval to you know, look in those databases. You know, so there's no way to hide, man. Not for the quote unquote, not for the law, you know, nor for the criminals, man. Because you need to understand, criminals, they are well connected, man. You know, you cannot be a criminal on a high level and not have connections, man. Because that's what's gonna keep you safe. That's what's gonna keep you out of problem. You know. But yeah, the point of this video is, man, like, living a life like this makes no sense. You know, and of course I do understand that, you know, there used to be Jakes, even in this truth, that used to live a life like that because they had no other options, because they had to survive. But the moment that you come in this truth, man, you put off these type of behaviors, man. Because don't you think that this is going to be, that this type of life is going to be, how you say that, accepted by the Heavenly Father, man? You're basically, you know, stealing, man. You know, makes no sense, man. Makes no sense if you're in the truth to have this type of behavior, man. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. You know, that's what you have to put off, man. That's what you would have to put off. You know, but yeah, it is what it is, man. People have been assigned their lot. You know, people are given their portion. You know, where there is only temporary, you know, access to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. You know, because Scripture says, man, when they have tasted of the heavenly gift, man. You know, and then basically crucified the Lord. You know, again to the cross, man. Do you really think that even though the Lord ain't gonna do it, but think about it, consider it, only consider it, right? Would the Lord go on the cross again? He ain't gonna go on the cross again for your dusty, musty ass. He did it once, man, in the sufferings that he did. Man, no sufferings upon the earth that has been experienced by any other person can compare to what the Lord Yahushua, you know, experienced, man. You know, the way that he was beaten, the way that he was left for dead, you know, before he was even, you know, crucified. You know, being beaten to the point that he could not be recognized no more, man. And then having to go on the cross, being crucified. That's heavy, man. You know, and this man, the Lord Yahushua, he carried, you know, our transgressions, man. He received basically the judgment that we should have received, but he carried it himself, man. He carried those things himself. Why? For us, for his love towards us, man. And then you want to live a life. You want to continue living a life like a Like a thief, like a robber, like a murderer? Shit, man. That's crazy. Meanwhile, the Heavenly Father gave you options, man. You can work. Scripture even says, he that doesn't work shall not eat. He that does not work shall not eat. But you're eating over another man's body. You're eating over another man's money that you have not earned, man. But you wanted to acquire that money because you was like, you know what I mean? Like Esau Esau, he don't deserve these things, so let me just take it, right? Doesn't belong to him anyway. Belongs to me now. Nah. That's crazy. You cannot have that mindset, man. In the truth, we work diligently, whether it's with our hand, whether it is in the office, but we work, and we, make sure that we pay our taxes. We render unto Caesar what Caesar's, man, and we make sure that we do not get into any trouble, because we do know that Esau does not carry the sword in vain, man. Esau does not carry that sword in vain, So we know that, if those things happen, you get caught, you get judgment, man. You get judgment, and the judgment in Holland, you're going to be locked up because they don't really pull out the guns like they do in America. But in America, if they see any form of resistance, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna shoot you, man. They're gonna shoot your ass. But yeah, these be the things, man. These be the things that people do not consider, man. These are the things that people do not consider. Proclaiming yourself to be righteous, but during the week you're a thief, you're a robber. Then the Heavenly Father can expose your ass. Crazy, man. But yeah, I digress. So with that, I do hope and pray that this video was edifying. And with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Give honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, Teacher Ruwell, and Shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading this truth with sincerity. Shalom.